FanDuel says we're embarking upon misery. I don't think Jazz fans agree. It's next on Locked on Jazz.
You are Locked on Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network. Your team every day.
How are you? I am David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider. This is Locked on Jazz. It's your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz, giving you insight, expertise, geeky numbers, and hopefully making it way better to be a Jazz fan each and every day. Thank you so much for making Locked on Jazz your first listen of the day. We are free and available on all podcasting apps as well as on YouTube. Thank you very much to the everydayers. It was great to see you all out at the arena the last few nights. Appreciate everybody who stopped by and said hi. Got to see you guys. Appreciate the everydayers. You guys make this show what it is. The loyalty is amazing. The numbers have been awesome since draft day. So our Ace Bailey draft day show was the biggest show we've had in, I think, 4 years. So pretty cool. All right. On the show today, I'm going to try to evaluate a wrap up of the Salt Lake City Summer League, but I'll have to admit there's going to be some real almost tepid caution and lack of knowledge on how I'm going to talk about some of our players. If the FanDuel over-under is going to is out already, I'll tell you what it is for the league. And then I'm sure we'll do more of it later as we have months to go. And thoughts on John and Collin. Yesterday, we talked about both John and Collin as kind of numbers and tradable assets and things like that. And I did want to take a moment on them as people. Let's start with what FanDuel says is going to be misery, and I don't think we agree. The line that is opened for the Jazz is 17.5 is our over-under. And last year we won 17. And the next closest to us is the Wizards at 20.5 and the Nets at 20.5 and then the Hornets at 25.5 and then the Pelicans at 30.5. So in regards to Oklahoma City's draft pick, where really we need to be bottom 6 to feel comfortable because it's protected top 8. And the chances of 3 teams jumping us are very limited. Chances of 2 is possible. We saw it this year. It feels like we're pretty good. 32.5 is the number that, according to FanDuel, we'd have to get to give up that draft pick. So it feels like we're pretty comfortable there. If you told a fan that we're going to lose 17.5, well, yesterday on the podcast, I kind of said that I was pretty excited and kind of liked where we were and admitted that at times it's where I wished we were a year ago. And here were the 2 responses I got on X yesterday, at least that I saw. You asked how how fans are feeling, and I can only speak for myself. I am thrilled with a commitment to a direction. The team will struggle, but players will pop. We will see growth, and I love it so much. And then another comment was, last season was so difficult to be engaged with because it was orchestrating losses via healthy scratches for no reason. You honestly never knew who would be suiting up, and I'm okay with not winning if we're putting out our best out there to grow each night. These both got very strong reactions on that little platform called X, which leads me to believe that they may be a little bit of the consensus of where the fan base is. Maybe not. They're 2 people in a big, huge world. And I generally, there's a good rule that it's never as good or as bad. You're never as hated or as loved, as you seem to be on social media. But I do kind of feel like that's where the Jazz fan base is. And maybe for some of you, it's 4 years delayed, right? We traded Rudy and Donovan 3 seasons ago and then went through kind of that middling thing where we were okay, but not good enough, and then pulled the plug. And then last year where we did, I thought that was well phrased, where, we manufactured ourselves into a position to get Cooper Flag and didn't. And obviously that it's not like the lottery odds changed. We knew exactly what the risk was. It just came up on the wrong side for us, though we've ended up with Ace Bailey, which feels pretty good right now. So it's interesting to me because I do think that that's where our fan base is right now. is that, and it's kind of where I am. This, as a play-by-play announcer, this feels like it's going to be a much more enjoyable task. That, it was funky and weird at times last year when you don't know how to refer to guys, whether they're out or injured or what, and, how long they're going to be out for or what's going on. Like, it was weird, right? When the NBA fined us, it was funky. This feels to me much more like, all right, our guys are going to get their heads beat in a few times. Like, and there's going to be some nights of pure unadulterated exhaustion where when you roll guys out that are outmanned physically, as I think our guys are going to be because of age, on a night in and night out basis, and they've just, at some point you walk into the arena and you get ready for a game and your brain and body just say, oh my gosh, I hurt and this is too hard. And you get blasted, and we're going to probably lose some by 30 or 40. And we're going to have some nights where we shoot 24%, but we're going to find out who's got what. I think that's really what I hear from Jazz fans is, and I think we will, as Austin Ainge said, play every game to win. Now, whether we do it more than 17.5 times, I have no idea. But I don't think we're going to do it more than 32.5 times. So that's probably the important number with the draft pick situation. And that trade's just unfortunate. It kind of handcuffed the franchise here for a little while. And now I think we have, but you at least have it. Like we talked about it yesterday, the 10-man rotation is just a bunch of kids with pacifiers and Lowry and Walker. And they're going to have to lose the pacifier and see what they can do. But I think Collier and Clayton are going to be your point guards. Kyle Anderson could come in and temper things a little bit. I think your shooting guards are Keyonte George and Bryce Sensabaugh. And at some point, while I loved that Keyonte came off the bench last year and it was good, like I kind of think Keyonte should start again. And he's either got it or he doesn't. I think we should move him off the ball. We'll go break down some of these guys' skills in the upcoming days. They're not going to grade well, though. Well, I think our small forward at this point is Ace Bailey or Cody Williams or Lowry, depending how you view it. And our power forward is probably Lowry or Taylor Hendricks. Those are our power forwards. And our centers are Walker, Kessler, and Kyle Filipowski, though. Watching Kyle in Summer League, I just still wonder what position he plays. Honestly, watching our 3 second-year players in Summer League, I am left a little befuddled. We'll touch on that here in a second. But that is 10 incredibly young guys. Svi, Nurkic, both on the roster there, gets us to 13. We'll talk a little bit about Elijah Harkless, who I think has got to be 14 or 15, maybe on a two-way, but maybe 14. I think 14 or 15. I mean, I think the way Elijah Harkless just played Summer League, I have a hard time thinking Will Hardy's not like looking at Austin Ainge saying, can I have that, please? Like that, he will bring it every minute of every night at a very high level. And then I don't know, John Tonje could be the second two-way player, or there's another vet coming around the bend that kind of does the Patty Mills, Drew Eubanks, Svi Mihailuk role. Those Svi's already here for it. And it's just a great dude. He can handle a little bit, play a little point if we need to. I wouldn't mind a backup point guard somewhere on this. I think Isaiah Collier and Walt Clayton could have some really tough stretches. And you might want to have somebody who can at least keep some semblance of order on the roster and if needed to play. Because I think there's a chance that both those guys could reach points during the season where they need a break. And maybe that's not an option. Like this is going to be hard. This is going to be hard, but it's clear, it's translucent, it's easy to root for. We'll see the growth, and we'll know a lot more at the end of the season. The goal last year was to know about the 7 guys, and I think we learned about Walker, and I don't know that we learned about anyone else. And they got plenty of time. It just takes a long time. The fact is that the development of players does not necessarily happen in the linear fashion of a season. So it's interesting to me. Like I look at 17.5 and it's like, oh my gosh. And then I realize we did it last year. But this one feels much more clear to what we're doing. And I think all of you, if I speak for the fan base, are much more excited. This is easier to grasp onto. It's easier to understand. You can see exactly what's happening. And frankly, in a lot of ways, when everyone asks for direction in years 1 and 2, this is kind of what you're asking in year 1 and 2. It was asking for that Westbrook trade with Conley and Bogdanovich to go down early. And it was and really to clear that house much faster than we did. All right. Summer League wrap-up. Befuddled. Perfectly honest. Kyle Filipowski, Isaiah Collier, Cody Williams. All look stronger. All have worked harder. Do I feel more comfortable, know more about their futures? Maybe not, honestly. Next on Locked on Jazz. Today's show is brought to you by Intercap Lending. At Intercap Lending, we have our own personal loan officer for you. His name is Steve Carter. He's been with us for 7 years. He has done rock star work all of the time. It's absolutely amazing. Intercap's a mortgage company that's shaking things up by making home loans accessible, straightforward, and personal. Whether you're buying your first home, refinancing, exploring options as a veteran, or whomever, Intercap is there to guide you. They're not your average mortgage lender. That's why we partnered with Brock Worthen, their president, when I first met with him. And then we got our own personal loan officer, Steve Carter. We built this model like 7 years ago. And the idea was simply, we want to make sure that Locked On listeners get a VIP experience from the very best if they go to Intercap Lending. And that is exactly what has happened. And the reviews come in time and time again, and they are just amazing. SR wrote, Steve is the best in the business. I don't think we would have had our home if it weren't for him. He answered his phone. He responded to text so fast. I felt like I was his only client. Sometimes I was critical for information needed to writing offers. He saved the day by being there for us. I wish everyone I ever had to buy anything from had the commitment to customer service that Steve has. That's why he's our own personal loan officer, and he's here for you. You can email me at dlock09@gmail.com. That's dlock09@gmail.com if you're looking for a loan, and I will get you, Steve Carter, and you hooked up to make sure that you get the VIP experience that is Steve Carter and Intercap Lending. Today's show is also brought to you by Monarch Money. Monarch Money is the app that acts like a CFO for your personal life. So, want to manage your money a little bit better? Find out where you're doing great. Find out how to plan for a big purchase. Find out where you can save a little bit more. Monarch Money puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, full visibility, control of your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. Track all your accounts, investments, spending in one place. So in addition to managing all your money, you're also building wealth. You can find out how you're going to run a bigger surplus to get what you need, how you can get to the next step. All of these things you can find out in one place. And if you ever looked at spending and been surprised at how fast it adds up, then this is an easy way to do it as well. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for over half off your first year. That's right, half off your first year at monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA. We teach our Locked On hosts. We work with all of them on what it does to make the best show you could possibly have. And if someone was coaching me and I came out right now and said, on our next discussion, I don't know. Not sure it will be received very well from the coaching staff of Locked On. But honestly, I sat down last night when I got home to write out my thoughts on Isaiah Collier, Kyle Filipowski, and Cody Williams. And I don't know. I really don't know. We're still so young in the process. We had a most delightful post-game interview with Jaden Springer 4 years ago. He was the 28th pick of the draft. He played great last night. And it was really a delightful conversation. And he just has such a great attitude. And I couldn't help but think to myself, like, wow, he's 4 years out of being the 28th pick of the draft. He's been with Philadelphia, got released, went to Boston. He's now with Utah. He does not have a deal right now, the best of my knowledge. And he is trying to hang on. And I thought to myself, is that Isaiah Collier in 3 seasons? Here's Isaiah Collier. Had such a great year. We thought he should have been all rookie last year. He has so much skills. We're so excited about him. And I literally thinking to myself, okay, well, Jaden Springer was the 28th pick, and Isaiah Collier was the 29th pick in what was a far worse draft. Springer, by the way, I believe is on a non-guaranteed $2.3 million deal right now. And then he's got it signed for next year too. And Jaden Springer's very similar to Isaiah Collier. He's big and strong. His handle probably is a little not as strong. His shooting's not great, but nor is Isaiah's. And really the bugaboo for Jaden Springer has been two things. One, I think he was on a pretty good team in Philadelphia, and so hard for him to break through that roster. And after playing just 2 games his rookie year, he then played 16 his second year, and then they bailed on him. And so, he really hasn't had a lot of time at all. After 32 games of his second year, they kind of pulled the plug. But he has not shot it great. He shot 24% from 3 in limited approach a time, 24 of 101, not a lot. And then last year with the Jazz, he played 17 games, got probably his most minutes per game, I think, at any point in his career, at 13, and didn't shoot it well. Also, 6 of 29 for 21%. I'm looking at Jaden, who was just so delightful. Now I'm rooting for him every night and wondering, wait, is this Isaiah Collier? Isaiah Collier in Summer League just shot, and I don't really care about some of these numbers. And I thought there were some areas where I certainly am giving him a pass because I thought his job was to run the offense. But he just shot 35% from the field. He went 1 of 5 from 3, and he shot 50% from the free throw line. That's disconcerting. You can't do that. We can talk about all of his other skills. I think he has to have watched the NBA playoffs and realize if he's going to be an NBA impact player, he's going to have to defend like Andrew Nembhard and be just into people. But it's a hard game to play. And I can start running the numbers, and it's probably not worth it yet. But the amount of guards in this league that shoot below 30% from 3 is nil. The amount of guards that play 26 minutes and only take 2 threes a game is nil. And so I don't know. I was surprised. I've always thought Isaiah's greatest strength was that he could beat someone off the bounce. I thought he had a hard time doing that in Summer League. Maybe there wasn't enough space. Ron Boone talked about it a lot. His game right now is purely transition. So I left last year thinking Isaiah had a fabulous year. He's got a great gumption. He's got a good control of the game. He's got great vision. He throws passes, makes his teammates play well. I've said a lot. He has to be a point guard. He doesn't have another route to play in the NBA. He's going to have to be the primary ball handler. And he shot 42% and 25% from 3 last year. And you kind of want to, okay, well, just did it again in a Summer League. Let's not panic. But I don't know, honestly. I thought that was just an interesting comp. I'm watching Jaden Springer, who's really good and does a lot of things well last night and played really well. And that can happen fast, right? That's probably what jumped out to me most is how fast it can happen that you go from in the league down. Now, Jaden Springer's never gotten the amount of time that Isaiah Collier got last year or Isaiah Collier's going to get this year. And Isaiah's just 20. And Jaden was the same thing. He came out of 1 year at Tennessee. Kyle Filipowski is so gifted offensively. It is awesome. And I think there's something worth talking about here with Kyle Filipowski on a really positive note. And that is if you look at this week's games and who they played. On the first night, he goes up against Bona, who was a second-round draft pick right about the same time as Kyle. I think he was the 33rd pick or 35th pick, and Kyle was the 31st, right? So I think, that's a big deal. Kyle went up against a guy that was drafted in a similar spot. Kyle looked better than Bona. Bona's really big, really skilled, got all sorts of things, but the fact is Kyle just has so many more offensive skills. Baycott, he goes up against the next night, who he played 4 times at Duke, who was undrafted, but he's another one of these big, massive centers. And Kyle got the better of Baycott as he did the last 2 times they played in college as well. And Baycott went undrafted, and Kyle went drafted, so Kyle was better. And then last night, Sissoko only played 14 minutes, dunked on him in the opening play of the game, but Kyle had 18 points and 15 rebounds in 24 minutes. I mean, that's a pretty dominating stat line at 18 points and 15 rebounds. You know, when I look back at Kyle's year last year, part of it I don't know is his roller coaster three-point shooting. It was bad, it was great, it was not very good. Like, it went from bad to elite to then he didn't close well. I thought his shot looked great in practice and watching him play. He did not shoot it great. He went 4 of 13, 3 games. It's really not a lot to touch. And he shot 49%. His offensive array of skills is great. Kyle's going to play in the league for a long time with his offensive array of skills. But what I don't know still is what position he plays. Because he does not impact the rim at all defensively. At least it doesn't feel to me like he does. In the summer league, it didn't feel like he did. He's really strong and a really good rebounder, but it does feel to me he gets moved out of and dislodged by size an awful lot. And yet, I would also tell you the reason I thought Kyle was so successful last year as a rookie was because his lower body was ready. So that's a little counterintuitive not sure I know. His offensive skills are elite. Of the 3 guys we're going to talk about, the array of offensive skills, unique for a 7-footer, the ability to play outside, the ability to pass, the ability to dribble, and simultaneously be a good rebounder. Like, usually that guy is a non-rebounder. 15 rebounds last night, one short of the summer league record in 24 minutes. It's pretty awesome. So the offensive skills were pretty awesome. But I don't think he's Jaden Springer, that 4 years from now he's doing a summer league interview after a game for another team. But I could see 4 years from now that as good as he is offensively, he just can't stay on the floor because of his defense, like on a good team. I don't know. That's kind of my point. And then there's Cody, who looked better, but when 4 days were done, he ended up shooting 43% from the field and 31% from 3. And I thought he disappeared last night. Like, I thought the question on Cody out of college was the fact that if you watched Colorado, he would just kind of be out there and get lost in the game. And when I scouted him in a desperate attempt to try to make him good, I think, accounted that to be that the fact that KJ Simpson and whoever their center was, I think it was Lawson and De Silva, were all seniors, and he just got lost in the shuffle and didn't really have an impact, and he just kind of fell into the game, and that was just the team he was on. But then, like last night, he plays 24 minutes, and he has no rebounds. None. It's hard to do, actually. He was the only guy on the roster last night who played who didn't get a rebound. And so I don't. Cody's a long way. I mean, from last year's season to when you decide whether Cody's going to be a viable, good NBA player is a long way. The strength is allowing him to drive into the basket, come set, take that fadeaway mid-range jumper, get some shots off he didn't get off before, look a little bit better, more offensively, had a beautiful drive to the outstretched right hand. On the drive, you're seeing the strength have its impact. But honestly, like last night, and maybe the game just kind of did this, but against Oklahoma City's pressure defense, for him just kind of to wilt into the air was super disappointing to me. Like, he should be impacting the game. His 10th pick of the draft of 2 years ago, maybe the worst draft in the history of the NBA, but still should have some sort of an impact there. So 3 games is not a lot. I'm hopefully being reasonable here, but honestly, I do like, as we now, this is what I think makes this season so exciting. Back to the first thing we talked about today. As we move forward with this, it's going to be fascinating to watch. I don't really know whether I think Isaiah Collier 4 years from now is Jaden Springer doing a post-game interview with me for somebody else, or whether Isaiah Collier is going to be a 28-minute a night starting guard who impacts the game with speed, tenacity, passing, and amazing defense. And I don't really know if Kyle Filipowski is an 8th guy off the bench, 3rd guy off the bench, backup second unit guy who's really a pretty dominating force, working toward a 6th man of the year, being able to play all sorts of different ways. I don't think he's a starting center. I'm kind of implying that. I think the lack of maybe he's a starting small power forward at some point. But so let's go with him as the 6th man of the year, come from the bench, playing with 4 or 5, depending. Is he that, or is he the 11th guy on the bench who you're looking at like he's so amazingly offensively skilled, but we can't get him on the floor? I don't know. And does Cody ever get big enough, strong enough to be able to impact the game and impact it consistently? I don't know. It's going to be fascinating to watch. Collin, Sexton, John Collins, good dudes, need a moment. They deserve it. Next on Locked on Jazz. So yesterday we talked about, in the last few weeks, we've talked about Collin Sexton as like what he was worth and what he got. We talked about John Collins, about what he's worth and what he got. And there are times where this one was worth it. I do want to just take a second on both of them. And maybe, I do think this matters to you. I think they were both really great dudes. I will admit, the first time I met John Collins, we were in Hawaii. We were in a really fascinating conversation. I think the Ukrainian war had just started, and we got into actually a conversation with that, and his parents were in the military. And we had somebody on the team who had some insight on it. This was 3 years ago in Hawaii. I'm a European player. I can't think of who it was. And it was just a really interesting conversation. And then John and I kept talking more after that. And then I actually had a moment with John where he seemed so nice and so upbeat all the time that I thought he was fake. And I was like, oh no, because I've dealt with this in the league where the guy's just a total fake and says everything he's supposed to say and acts like everybody's their best friend and has no authenticity to it all, and then gets on the floor and is the most selfish pig on the planet. And I was like, oh no, that was not true at all. He's really a good dude. He's certainly like aware of points and rebounds because that's what he's getting paid for and what he does. And that's awesome. But just around having his little yerba mate tea every day by the end, seeing him just good conversations. Often my interactions with these guys are 3 minutes in an elevator, Collin and I seemingly every day. But also every now and then you get a real conversation, you get a chance to talk to them. And John was just an adult. He was just a really good dude and an adult, and he was nice to be around. And he did take the profession very seriously and had a good disposition, and is just a really good dude. And so I just wanted to kind of give him a shout out on that. And it was absolutely authentic. Like that actually is the takeaway I'm trying to get across, is that I had this moment where I was like, oh no. And that didn't turn out to be true at all. And he won me over the 2.5, 3 years that he was with us in who he is as a human, his authenticity, his approach to things, and being a pro. And that was really cool. Collin is just a bundle of energy and joyous and gives you a lift every time you see him. And it's a neat gift. It's sometimes with reckless abandonment. There's hysterical stories about calling plays that didn't exist. It's kind of the essence of Collin. It all comes bundled in one big thing, and it's great. And I love it. He was so fun to like, literally I've told the story a lot, but you'd be on the road and the elevator door would open. And and there was Collin, and you just smiled immediately and you felt a juice of energy come through you. And we would be at game 72 in a shoot around, and Collin would be going 1,000,000 miles an hour, just trying to get it going. And then later in the day, you'd be in the gym and Collin's there because he just doesn't sit still. And there's great stories from Isaiah, our strength and conditioning coach, on the things they did to give Collin something to do because he had to do something, but you didn't want him to wear himself out. And it's very well managed by the Jazz, and he really prospered under all the tutelage that he got here in Utah. But he's just a really energetic, great, fabulous dude who, like I would actually kind of call him a child in an adult's body in a wonderful way, not in a critical way at all. Like, how often do you look at a child who smiles and laughs and giggles and enjoys everything, and you think to yourself, if I could have that zest in life, I'd be fine. Well, Collin has it. And he was just a real pleasure to be around. So I did want to mention and just give a little note to those two as humans, because we've talked so much about them and their value and this and that, but their value is that they're human beings and that they were a pleasure to be around. And the organization asked them to do a lot and some funky stuff. And they really played along and they did a good job and they mentored. And John was amazing at really trying to take young players under his wing. And when you watched him on the bench, he was always kind of going to those guys and being there for him. It was pretty great. So I just want to tip a hat to both them as they move on. I was going to over under it today. It's better conversation for longer. The top 10 in the West are at 40.5. The top 6 in the West are at 47.5. The Thunder at an insane 62.5. The 10th spot in the East is 36.5. The East has 3 teams with 50 or more wins. The West has 4 teams with 50 or more wins. The East only has 3 teams at over 46.5 wins. Orlando, New York, and Cleveland. It's like a 3-team race. The West has 7 teams with 46.5 or more. That is Locked On Jazz today. Tomorrow we'll dig into that a little bit more. We're going to start some deep dives on player profiles. I'm also going to Vegas for the weekend, so I'll see our team play twice and give you thoughts and commentary on that as we come back to you. Friday, we'll do an Ask LOJ edition as well. So it should be a fun rest of the week. Thanks for staying with us. Thank you for coming out and saying hi at Salt Lake Summer League. You can follow me on socials at DLock09. Thank you very much. We now send you the first ever 24/7 national NBA channel. And check out Locked On NBA every day. I'm telling you, the Locked On NBA show with Doug, Matt, and Hayes is the best NBA show around.